The upcoming full moon in Cancer is going to be the most emotionally charged full moon of 2025. In this video, I'm going to explain to you why that is and help you to navigate this roller coaster of emotion, which you are most likely already feeling as we are building up to this moon. Now, the reason that this full moon, which is going to be exact on or around January 13th, 2025, depending on where in the world it is that you are located, is feeling so intense is because it is not only happening in the sign of Cancer, which is the moon's home sign, but it is happening loosely conjunct Mars retrograde in Cancer. Not only is it happening loosely conjunct Mars, the planet that represents volatility, aggression, these intense drives and desires and energies, but it is also in a T-square with Chiron, the wounded healer. This is the asteroid or dwarf planet that represents the most wounded aspects of our nature and how it is that we can ultimately become our own healer and share healing with the world. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, Chiron, but it is a very intense energy, especially in the sign of Aries, which is, of course, the sign that Mars rules. So we're seeing that connection. We're seeing that interplay of energies here. Now, what makes this a T-square is the fact that we have the moon loosely conjunct Mars opposing the sun in Capricorn. So the sun at 23, almost 24 degrees of Capricorn, opposing the moon at 23, almost 24 degrees of Capricorn, with that Mars loosely conjunct at 27 degrees. And both of these luminaries, the sun, the moon, and Mars, are being squared by Chiron. So the pressure is really on here. It's essentially this pressure cooker of energy that's dredging up within us our deepest emotional patterning, our deepest emotional wounds, and the emotions and feelings within us that we have been suppressing or repressing that really need to come out, that really need to be given a voice. This full moon is asking us to acknowledge our feelings, is asking us to acknowledge what we truly want and need, and how it is that we truly feel about the circumstances and events in our lives. Anywhere where we have been lying to others or lying to ourselves about what we truly feel, that's going to be brought to the surface in order to be released. And an important thing that Spirit wants people to know and understand as we're working with the energies of this full moon is the fact that because you have certain emotions coming up doesn't necessarily mean that that is the complete totality of how you feel about a situation. And what I mean by that, or I'll try to explain that more, is we can feel multiple things about a thing at once. For instance, if you're starting a new job, you can feel sadness because of the job you left behind. You can feel fear because this is new territory that you're stepping into. You don't know the atmosphere. You don't know the players. It may be a completely different realm than where you've worked before. You can also feel excitement and anticipation. And all of these things can exist simultaneously. So when some of these feelings and emotions are coming up, what Spirit wants us to know, recognize, and understand is the fact that it's okay for them all to exist together. And this is what this full moon is bringing out. It's bringing out those aspects or feelings about certain situations that we felt ashamed of, that we haven't wanted to admit to ourselves, so that they can be cleansed and cleared. And in order for this purge to happen, we need to not judge that. Because, of course, sometimes the way we feel about things is something that we're ashamed of, right? We don't want to admit that. If we're going to use the analogy of the new job, perhaps we don't want to admit to people that it scares us, that stepping out of our comfort zone scares us, that doing something new scares us. All right. I think another great example of this that I'm going to use, and this really goes in line with the energies of Cancer. The job thing does too, because Capricorn is all about the job. It's the career, the profile, moving, making those moves, right? And that moon energy is all about the home and the family. So we're seeing this interplay of energies here. So with that, another example of this and what Spirit's trying to get across here with those emotions, with that Cancer energy, is mothers or parents in general, but particularly mothers, I think, deal with this, but all parents, doesn't matter matter what your gender, biology, however you want to slice and dice it, right? All parents deal with this energy where it's like you love your kid so much, but there's also that part of you that kind of like just wants that quiet, that just wants that alone time, that sometimes just wishes that they weren't a parent, right? This is the juxtaposition of energies. And when we have that other energy, there's so much guilt and so much shame around that. And the reason I said particularly for mothers, I think, is because of the conditioning of what a mother is supposed to be, right? And this is particularly like not just actually in the culture that I live in the United States. This is all over the world, right? The female is supposed to be that nurturing caretaker. And there are lots of different aspects to the feminine. That is not the only aspect of the feminine. That is the more moon-like aspect of the feminine. But there are many faces to the feminine, and the ways that different people express and experience their feminine energy varies, all right? But even people who are really deeply in touch with that moon, nurturing mother energy of the feminine, it doesn't mean that they feel that way all the time, right? It doesn't mean that they don't want some alone time, that they don't need some space. Okay, so that is a really good example of this, where some of those feelings, some of those emotions might be coming up, or anything and everything in between, right? But it's those things that make us uncomfortable, that we have repressed, that like now we're being given an outlet. And the thing about this full moon is it is going to be so powerful and so intense that those deep core wounds are going to be triggered. So pay attention to this with other people as well. That Aries energy is very volatile. Mars in Cancer is very volatile. Mars is uncomfortable in the sign of Cancer. Mars likes to make moves. Mars has that aggressive, competitive streak. Mars isn't particularly nurturing, right? It's not particularly gentle or particularly intuitive. It likes to go, it likes to act first and ask questions later, right? And that's not what the moon energy is all about. The moon wants to feel it out. Cancer wants to feel it out, wants to get a read on the energy, on the situation, wants to maybe meditate or sleep on it for a little bit, right? So Mars is already uncomfortable. Add the retrograde where Mars's energy is slowed down and Mars is fuming to begin with. And then when we add into this, and in Cancer, there's that emotional reactivity already. So when we add this to the moon itself, that only amplifies. And then when we square it with Chiron in Aries, the sign that Mars rules, there's a lot of red hot anger that we can experience. There's also going to be, with Chiron in loose conjunction to the dwarf planet Eris, which represents rage, jealousy, envy, being left out, all the ways that we get back at the people that have harmed us. There's a real trigger point here for people as well, surrounding those uncomfortable feelings of envy, of jealousy, of wanting to see other people fail, or wishing misfortune upon people. We all have that energy within us. We may not like it, right? It's the energy where we flip somebody off when they cut us off in traffic. It's the energy where we think about our ex and we think like they're going to get theirs. You know what I mean? It's like it exists within all of us. So those triggers are going to be coming up. Those triggers of insecurity, of lack of confidence, all of those deep wounds, feeling ineffective, feeling like we can't exert our will, feeling like we don't know how to get what we want, or we never get what we want. All of those frustrations with that Chiron and Aries energy are going to be coming to the surface as well, and all the ways that we use and misuse our masculine energy. Our masculine energy with this Mars retrograde has been getting a massive upgrade, and this is a big point of action within that cycle. Ultimately, what this full moon is doing is it is giving us an opportunity to purge and cleanse that trauma, that anger, that resentment at a cellular level, to experience a profound breakthrough in healing, and to purge out, like we said, and release any of those stagnant emotions so that we can begin achieving, moving forward, that forward momentum that Mars energy craves. So allow yourself to feel it in order to heal it. Allow yourself to go deep within your emotional nature. Try not to be reactive, but pay attention to what's coming up. Journal on it, meditate on it, pray on it. Cry through it, scream through it in a safe space, right? Allow yourself to feel the full spectrum of this emotion, and understand that this is an energy that is assisting us in reparenting ourselves and restructuring our emotional responses and our emotional conditioning. It is so incredibly massive. And if you guys want more on this, check out Dark Side of the Moon, Tarot and Astrology, my full-length channel on YouTube, where we delve deeper into these energies.